October 31st, Halloween. Devon Griffin returns to his home after performing in his Sunday morning church service at 1:30 in the afternoon. Devon had decided he wanted to unwind after a long morning and went to go play video games in his room. He noticed the house was quiet, more than usual, and his family were usually awake by now. He knew his mother, Susan Liske, 46, at the time, was usually wide awake and doing something around the house. Devon took it upon himself to go and look around the house to locate his family. When he entered the master bedroom, he found his mother and stepfather, William E. Liske, lying in bed with their maroon comforter pulled over their heads. Hoping to wake them, Devon begins casually talking to them as he walked around to his mother's side of the bed. It was then that he noticed her foot had been sticking out from under the covers. Tapping on her leg to get her attention, she still gives no response. He pulled down the covers to reveal a bloody mess soaked into her pillow. Running from the house in tears, he realised his family had been murdered. Calling his aunt for help, she arrives and calls 911. Detectives had in fact found William and Susan shot to death in their bed. According to the coroner, William Liske was shot 5 times in the head and face. Susan had been raped and then shot 3 times at close range. Devon's brother Derek had a room upstairs which was shockingly locked upon the arrival of police. Police kicked in the door and found the young man curled up in bed facing the wall. The coroners estimated his death as a result of blunt force trauma and most likely died within minutes of the first blow. Investigators had found a bloody claw hammer in the house, as well as muddy footprints near the family's pond on the deck, leading police to believe this is where the other weapon had been disposed of. The pond was drained, resulting in no weapon. Ottawa County Sheriff Bob Bratton confirmed the deaths of William Liske, Susan Liske, and their 23-year-old son, Derek Griffin. There was no apparent evidence of a struggle, and all 3 bodies were found in their beds. William B.J. Liske Jr., the son of William Liske, was immediately identified as a suspect. He was charged with 1 count of murder right at the time of the arrest. This allowed them to hold Liske Jr. until the case was presented to the grand jury. Devon had spent the previous night at his biological father's house and returned to his mother's house that morning to change into his church clothes. He recalled seeing his stepbrother William B.J. Liske Jr. at the house that morning, but ultimately thought nothing of it. Looking back into William Jr.'s records, it was found that he was quite a troubled young man. In 2002, William Liske had called law enforcement on then 16-year-old BJ because he had been threatening to harm himself. In October of 2004, BJ had gotten into a fight with his stepmother and struck her hard in the chest. He was charged with felonious assault and robbery 2 months later for stealing Susan Liske's car keys after hitting her with a coffee mug. The charges were dropped as he was found too incompetent to stand trial. There are at least 3 recorded encounters with police after BJ had been moved into a Sandusky group home for mental health patients, including a physical fight between him and his father. BJ had also been kicked out of the house by his father, as it was revealed BJ, 18 at the time, had tried to attack his stepmother Susan in the shower. BJ had not taken a liking to his stepmother due to her attempting to impose order in the house after she married BJ's father in 2001. Despite the endless fights and dangerous situations, William never gave up on his son. In February of 2006, William had filed for guardianship as he had been hospitalised in 2007 for schizoaffective disorder, bipolar type. The week after the murders, William Liske had taken some vacation time and decided to take BJ deer hunting. They returned home from the trip less than 24 hours before the murders took place. Neighbours felt wary of BJ and often suspected him of killing and torturing neighbourhood pets. After they returned home from the hunting trip, William and BJ got together with friends for a few beers. Derek Griffin, William's stepson, 23, was not there because him and BJ did not get along. William had allowed for BJ to spend the night as they had both been drinking and did not find it safe to drive BJ back to Sandusky. The couch had been made for him to sleep on. Michelle Gradle, a neighbour of William and Susan, told investigators she heard what sounded like gunshots at about 6:30 a.m. October 31st. After Devon's encounter with BJ the next morning, BJ had taken the family's Ford F-150 and drove it to the hunting cabin where him and William had just returned home. He was there less than an hour before Carroll County Sheriff's deputies arrested him. BJ pleaded guilty in 2011 to 3 counts of aggravated murder. In exchange for his plea, prosecutors agreed to not seek the death penalty and instead recommend Liske be sentenced to life without parole. According to the Sandusky Register, BJ, 29 at the time, was found dead in his cell on March 31st from a self-inflicted injury.